The Link Show is just about to start. We have a brand new website, so head to thelinkcrew.com where you can see our most recent videos, play this week's Kahoot, and send in your shoutouts. Let's get started.
Today on The Link Show, we are continuing our series on friendship called Never Alone.
And we're learning about Paul and Timothy.
We got another animated Bible story.
And another challenge for you.
All that and more.
Are you ready?
Let's get linked.
And welcome back. We have another episode of The Link Show here for you today. And another question.
I'm ready.
Are you ready for the question?
I am.
Okay, I paused a bit because I didn't know if you were ready.
I'm sorry, I'm ready.
And I don't know if
Tell
you're ready.
We're ready.
You're ready. But the question is, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Okay, I am a big, I don't know, this is so whatever, but a lemon sorbet. It's refreshing, it's
Ooh.
not heavy, like you can eat it multiple times during the day. What about you, Miguel? What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Well, it's not as, tangy as that, as like a lemon. It's more peanut buttery. I like peanut butter ice cream. It's good. It's actually so good.
Dude,
peanut
I
butter
hate
and
peanut
chocolate ice cream.
butter to begin with, so like putting it in ice cream
Really?
is just, it's not a vibe.
Peanut butter is like a goated flavor.
I'm glad
me.
you love it. I love it
For
for
me.
you.
Personally. But you know what? Let's hear what you have to say.
Tell
Send
us.
in your shout outs, send in your answers, and we'll read them out on the Link Crew and you. But right now, we're going to go to Buckles Preach Part 1.
Okay, so today I want to tell you two stories from when I was younger. I was still in kids ministry at church, so I wasn't in youth yet. I was still in primary school, and I've got two stories, and I'm going to tell you both, and I want to see if you can spot the difference. So, number one, I was about grade 5, and on that morning, and Sunday morning, everyone was getting ready to run the kids program. My dad was one of the pastors at church, and so I was there early helping set up and getting everything ready. But the guy that was meant to come and do the sound desk, so mixing the microphone levels and the music levels, didn't show up. He didn't come. And I had been playing around with that gear myself with my dad. He taught me how to use it. So I knew what to do and I knew how to use it. But that morning, the leader who was on at church was like, no, you're just a kid. You won't know how to do it properly. We'll find someone else. And so it took them like half an hour, and eventually they found a person from church, like an adult that came down, and they were able to mix and make it all work. So now let's jump about 6 to 12 months into the future, nearly a year later. And so something similar happened. We're getting all set up, but this day they were running a kids takeover. And so the kids were running everything at kids church. And so the kids were running worship on stage, they were doing the music, different kids were running the game, and I put my hand up to run the sound desk. And so that day came around and it was a different leader. I was sitting at the sound desk and I was mixing it and I was making it all happen. And that leader was like, why aren't you doing this every week? You're so good at doing this. We didn't even realize that you knew what to do. And so from that point forward, I would get to mix sound. I would do sound all the way up until eventually I left that room because I got too old and went to the next room. Now, two different stories, two different outcomes. In the first one, because I was young, the person who was leading me thought I couldn't do it. The second leader was like, I don't care that you're young. If you know how to do this and you can do it, go for it. And so gave me a shot, and I did really well. You see, sometimes in our lives, I know I felt it, I'm sure you felt it as well, you felt like other people thought you were too young or you weren't good enough to do the thing you were trying to do. And maybe you knew how to do it. Maybe it was doing something cool on the computer, like graphic design or video editing. Maybe it was like a dance or a drama. Maybe it was something in sport, and you felt like other people didn't encourage you, but instead they put you down because they thought you were too young or that you didn't know what to do. I know in that first story for me, I felt so let down. I felt like, oh, why aren't people believing in me? And I know how deflated that made me feel. And I know that we all sometimes can feel that way. And so today, because we're in the middle of this series talking about friendship and about not being alone, about working together, I want to take a look at a story in the Bible of two guys, one older who was a leader in the church and a younger guy who was still up and coming and learning. We're going to take a look how they encouraged each other to reach the potential that God has for them. We're also going to look at how we can be a good friend to others and help encourage them so that they can reach the potential that God has for them as well. And so I'm really excited to unpack this Bible story, but we'll talk about that in just a minute.
So for today's game, you have 24 cups in front of you, all filled with orange liquid. What you have to do is find the Fanta and drink it. So there are 4 cups of Fanta, and it's basically fastest wins. So Miguel's going to do this one later, and we'll see who comes out on top. However you want to figure out which one's the Fanta, up to you, but you have to drink all of the Fanta, and we know which ones are which, so we can verify that.
Cool.
All right, ready?
Yep. It tastes Pancheresque. Nope, not that one. That was vinegar. Oh, I hate you. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I didn't look at the colour close enough. Watch, Miguel's just gonna go and drink them all. Can you tell me if there's any more in the front row? Oh, guys. Oh, I've worked out the code. Guys, are you sure there's 4? Oh, found it. Oh, I feel sick.
There's 24 cups in front of you. 4 of them are filled with Fanta. It is your job to drink all of the Fanta, but you have to drink them all. We
What's
know
the-
which ones have Fanta.
What's the rest filled with?
I'm not telling you, you get to find out.
That tastes like Fanta. That. That tastes like Fanta. Yeah, that's right. I actually disgusting. I don't know what that was. That tastes like Fanta. That's vinegar. Oh, imagine if that one's Fanta, that one. Imagine. That'd actually be tough. F. Oh, dude, I was actually so scared. Shave 2 seconds off because the producer took way too long to go the phone. But we're done. I'm pretty sure I slaughtered quite a bit of vinegar in that. That was disgusting yet delicious.
In the New Testament of the Bible, we can find the story of 2 people, one man named Paul and a younger man named Timothy. Paul was chosen by God to tell people about the love of Jesus, and one day Timothy heard what Paul was saying. Timothy had always believed that a Messiah was going to come to save people and to help them become friends with God again. So when he heard the teachings that Paul was sharing, and although Timothy was still young, he chose to follow and learn from Paul. Wherever Paul went, Timothy would go and listen and learn to find out more about this man named Jesus. Timothy traveled with Paul and Silas to a place called Philippi and helped them establish a church. He saw the opposition that Paul would face as he shared the good news. He also traveled with them to Corinth and helped in building a ministry there as well. Paul also sent Timothy out to help strengthen and encourage other believers in their faith as well. At one point, Timothy was helping to build the church in a place called Ephesus, and Paul wrote him 2 letters which we can find in the Bible. These are the books of 1st and 2nd Timothy. In one of the letters, Paul wrote an encouragement to Timothy because Timothy was still young. He said, Don't let anyone look down on you or make fun of you just because you're young, but instead set an example for others to follow in what you say, in what you do, the way you love, and through your faith. Paul became a friend and mentor of Timothy and helped Timothy reach the potential that God had for his life. I love in this story that Paul, who used to be Saul, started off as someone that was against God's people. He was against the church. And then God calls him and says, "What are you doing?" and gives him a second chance. And he becomes one of the leaders in the movement of the church and also ends up writing books in the Bible. And so he's a pretty important person, but he doesn't see himself as this high and mighty important person. Instead, he sees himself as someone who's meant to lead and help other people to find God's purpose in their life as well. And so he encounters this young guy, Timothy, and Timothy hears what he's saying. And Timothy's like, "I want to follow you. I want to learn from you." And so Paul brings Timothy with him, even though he's young. He's not yet as experienced or knowledgeable, but he's learning and he's trying, and sets him up, takes him on these journeys, shows him what it is to build the church, and then eventually has the faith and trust in him while he's still young to say, "I'm going to let you lead this place, this church." And so in the middle of this moment when Timothy is leading a church, Paul writes him letters, and you can actually find these letters in the Bible. They're 1st and 2nd Timothy. And across these two books, Paul is teaching and encouraging Timothy. He's encouraging him when he's doing well, and he's helping him when he's feeling down. And in one of those verses, Paul actually says, "Timothy, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young." And that's something that I want you to know today, that you might be young, you're still in primary school, but God still has a plan for your life. There's still things you can be doing now, today, to help your friends to be encouraged, help them when they're feeling sad, to uplift them, and to be able to start fulfilling the purpose God has for your life. And so in the Bible, in the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, from verse 10, it says this: "Christ died for us so that we could live with him." And then in verse 11, it goes on to say, "This is why you need to encourage and help each other just as you're doing." You see, Jesus did everything for us. He died on the cross, he rose again to help and save us. And so as followers of Jesus, it's a part of our responsibility to now love and care for and encourage others. Paul didn't think Timothy was too young. Paul saw the potential in Timothy's life and encouraged him. You're not too young. And so I want to encourage you that you can help a friend. You can give an encouraging word. You can be with someone when they're sick and pray for them. You're not too young. God has a plan for each and every one of our lives. And so the choice is up to us. Are we going to think that we're too young and not even try? Or are we going to trust that God has a plan, and are we going to take steps to do what the Bible says and do what God wants us to do? But the choice is yours.
Wow, that was actually a really good preach.
It was. Are you ready to find out who won this week's game?
I am ready to find out who won this week's game. It was gross as,
That was
but
so gross.
my mouth is still tingling from a lot of those flavors. I don't think it should be tingling.
It
But-
got pretty orange at one point.
But let's find out. Let's find out. Producer,
Hit
my
us.
guy.
You both did really well.
Wow.
Okay.
It took you a little while to find out what the key was to figure out which ones had Fanta in it,
just like
which
the
was
drink.
the F on the bottom of the cup. Miguel, you took
Oh no,
2 minutes and 28 seconds.
that's poor form from me.
Cece, you took 3 minutes 56, so Miguel
Wow,
wins.
wow, poor
The
form, but
fake
poor
out.
form from you. Let's go. Call it a comeback for all.
You
This
were
is-
committed.
Wow! I'm not gonna lie, actually. That was gross.
You were committed though to downing each one, whereas I was like, I am not. You were so committed to trying every cup, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I am not putting vinegar. I am not drinking something that I don't know what it is.
I'm not gonna lie,
I'm not
it was
about
gross.
it.
It was gross. But, I mean, certain flavors were actually pretty alright.
The Fanta was fine. I love that we learned today that Paul reminded Timothy that he wasn't too young to serve God.
And we can encourage our friends that they are not too young to be friends with God either.
So good. That's all we have today, guys.
I'm Miguel,
And I'm Cece.
and we'll see you next time on
The Link Show. Bye.